Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you how, after all these years, Tom Brady may have just killed the Patriot way.
And I'm Colin Cowherd, and I'll tell you why a moment tonight could decide the Cavs' future, and it has nothing to do with Game 2. Speak for yourself starts now on a Tuesday.
Westbrook moving to Cleveland? Is that your rumor? All right, hello and welcome. We're joined today by Fox NBA analyst Jim Jackson and Chris Broussard. Let's start in Houston, where the Warriors reminded everyone they're still the champs last night, stealing home court from the Rockets in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. Houston got a big night out of James Harden, but it wasn't enough against the Warriors' multifaceted attack, especially after Kevin Durant turned it on. KD finished with 37 points, and after the game, Steve Kerr had high praise for his superstar.
Kevin is the ultimate luxury because a play can break down and you just throw him the ball, and he can get you a bucket as well as anybody on earth. So, Kevin, you know, this is why this is why anybody would want him on their team. But you think about a couple of years ago, and we're in the finals, and we couldn't quite get over the hump. Kevin's the guy who puts you over the hump, and I don't know what you do to guard him. He can get any shot he wants.
Is it discouraging to you to see James score 41 points and you still lose by double digits?
No, I'm going to just go talk to him. He needs to get about 55 next time. So, and that would take care of it. I'll just have to tell him that.
All right, no doubt KD was great, but Houston didn't take my advice and played iso ball all night. Cowherd, what was the bigger reason for the Warriors' win? Kevin Durant or the Rockets iso ball?
The Rockets iso ball. This is why I picked Golden State in 5. The Rockets are like preparing for a spelling bee. Teacher gives you 50 words on Friday. She gives you 50 words on Friday. You got to memorize a few. Then you come out Monday and take the test. Houston, they do some iso ball. Figure that out, you beat the Rockets. Warriors are an SAT. You got to do math. You got to do reading. You got to do writing. Got to have an essay. Layers. Last night, Steph wasn't good. Rockets got off to a great start. CP and Harden were both great. And it wasn't close. This is what makes a dynasty. Golden State's best shooter can have an off night on the road, fall into a 10-point hole early, and they're cruising by the end of the third.
It was the culture clash I kind of expected. One team playing a very iso ball style, 4 guys standing around, and the Warriors in constant motion. Having said all that, and I do think the Rockets played the wrong way and they overdosed on the iso ball. Having said that, though, watching this 7-foot Kevin Durant be a problem that has no solution. The only thing they could have done is stacked P.J. Tucker and Eric Gordon on top of each other. That's the only double team that'll work. The guy's 7 foot, and he can hit every shot on the court. From half court, once he crossed the half court line, every shot's makeable. And when you're 7 foot tall and they got midgets guarding you, they just didn't have, there was no solution.
Here's the thing. If it wasn't KD, it would have been somebody else. Steph would have had the big game, or Clay would have had even more points. I'm not taking anything away from KD. He was great. But I'm with Colin. It was more the clash of cultures. And you said they should take your advice and change. They can't change. That was a nice, cute, and funny quote by Mike D'Antoni, but that might be what he does. Go score 55. I mean, they're not going to adjust. Look, and it wasn't just iso versus team basketball. It was also the philosophy that stems from Daryl Morey, the GM in Houston, all the way down.
Yes.
Three-pointer or at the rim versus a variety of ways to score. Durant isn't shooting a lot of threes. He took 6, but he was killing you with the mid-range. During the season, the Warriors shot 20 mid-range shots per game. The Rockets shot less than 7.
And how many of that was Chris Paul?
Exactly. If it wasn't for Chris Paul, it'd be about 2 per game.
Right.
And that's real talk. So that's it, too. That makes you harder to guard when you might take a 3, you might go mid-range, you might go backdoor, you might go at the rim versus a 3-pointer or a dunk by Houston.
I'm going to say both because, one, you don't have an answer. You don't have Kevin Durant. And the beauty of what Golden State does, they spread you out. So Kevin Durant has space to work in. Not like a lot of other superstars who are always seeing a body, a front of the jersey when they're trying to drive. With Golden State, because they move the basketball, they move bodies, it opens up lanes. And when you're 7 foot, you can jump over the top. Now, keep in mind, This is a different D'Antoni offense. The one I played in Phoenix, totally different. We shot a lot of three-point shots, but it came off of passes. Steve Nash, he dribbled with purpose.
Yeah.
He had the ball with purpose. The pick and roll with Amari at the free throw line, it was tough to guard. As soon as the ball touched somebody didn't have a shot, it moved. With this team, keep in mind, you contrast the two teams. Houston's 3 best players, okay? Eric Gordon, you talk about Chris Paul, James Harden, ISO players.
Yep.
3 best players for Golden State, Durant, Steph, Clay. Shoot off the dribble, shoot off pick and rolls, they cut you back door. You can't guard
Is that because I've been wondering, this is the beautiful D'Antoni whose offense in Phoenix, like, was beautiful.
Totally, yeah, but it's totally different.
But is that because Harden is a scorer? Because Steve Nash, like you said, he dominated the ball dribbling, but he was passing. Is it because Harden's looking to score, not just pass?
Wait,
I think he makes an interesting point. What Jim is saying is what I said to start my radio show today. I watch Harden, I see a little Westbrook with a beard. I mean, seriously, guys. Now,
works hard.
Now Harden's a better shooter, and I like Harden better. But I'm watching Houston last night, and I'm like, okay, this is a little Golden State where Paul George and Chris Paul. By the way, how's Eric Gordon played in the playoffs? He's become a spectator. How's Trevor Ariza played in the playoffs? They become spectators.
I think to some degree, and I agree with everybody's points, but are we overlooking the fact that Kevin Durant was a problem for them on the offensive end, but he was also a problem for them on the defensive end? And when you compare him and the way he played defense to someone put together a nice collage of how many times James Harden was lost completely on defense, a non-participant, and then the impact it had on the rest of the defensive players on the Houston Rockets. And again, that's why I say Kevin Durant on both ends of the court is a problem for these guys that I just question at some point. Is there any solution?
Here's the thing. Go back to your SAT. You got a little bit more to download to get prepared for, okay?
Yes.
Okay? Houston's offense was so simple. Yeah. We're going to pick and roll. And then whoever Steph guard, we're going to guard. So now as a defensive team, all I got to do is sink in a little bit more.
Yes.
If you want to get your 50, bro, go ahead. You got it. Everybody else has not beaten me. In the 2 games that Houston won, Eric Gordon had 30 and 31, okay? You had Green had 29. Guys participated. You didn't see that last night. You didn't see that at all. So
Almost like Golden State wanted Harden to score 4.
Exactly.
It was like
Go for it.
This time of year brings us 2 things: graduations and Father's Day, and the gifts that go along with them. Before you buy Dad another tie or that grad a balloon that will probably float away, ask yourself this: does my dad or grad like wings or sports, or better yet, both? If the answer is yes, then get them a Buffalo Wild Wings gift card. Right now, if you purchase $30 worth or more in-store or online, they'll give you a $5 bonus to keep for yourself. That's a gift that gives back. How generous of you. Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports. Terms and conditions apply.
So to the east, where the Cavs are looking to bounce back tonight against Boston after that really ugly, embarrassing Game 1 loss Sunday. LeBron struggled in that game, but one of his teammates, Tristan Thompson, is expecting a, quote, legendary performance from Bron tonight. Whitlock, we use this saying must win, but is it a must win for the Cavs?
I never count LeBron James out, but I do feel like they have to win this game. This isn't the Indiana Pacers. Again, I'm a Pacer fan. I know they have a problem with LeBron James. We all know that Toronto Raptors have a problem with LeBron James. I'm not sure if Boston has that problem in terms of LeBron may get 40, 50 tonight, but it's going to take more than just LeBron to destroy these Boston Celtics. And at some point, in order for the Cavaliers to win this series, they got to win a game on the road. And if you take the first 2 off the table, then I start losing faith that they'll get one later in this series.
I totally disagree. First of all, LeBron and this group have won on the road. Boston is the young Sixers gagging away from being 0-5 on the road. Mm-hmm. They couldn't beat Milwaukee on the road. Basically, Philly had them beat. We both said this, Jason. That was the closest 4-1 series we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Philadelphia gave games away. Boston's young. Young teams on the road. I mean, I always say this with my kids. The younger the kid, the more problems I get on the roller coaster in the back seat of the car.
Kids get older, Colin. No, seriously. I think Boston's going to grow up in this series, and I get you. They've been terrible on the road. But eventually.
Well, I don't think it's a must-win. It's close, but I think it's a must-play well or must-close loss. Like, at the very least, they need to play well and lose close.
Cleveland.
Yeah, Cleveland.
Right.
If they get blown away, then, now look, they've got veterans that came back from 3-1 in the finals. We know that. So they might not lose heart. But the Jordan Clarksons, the Rodney Hoods, guys that you're going to need in this series, they might lose heart if they get blown out. But if they play it close, to all your points, they're going to win the next 2 games in Cleveland. They only have to win 1. They got chances in Game 5 and Game 7 in Boston. So I don't think it's quite a must.
Colin, I think you were reading my notes because I was going to say the same thing about the road. Because to me, Boston is so critical that they go in 2-0. They can't go on the road 1-1.
They can't.
They can't do it just because they haven't performed. They've been close. Now, in the Philly game, Philly kind of tricked that one off themselves.
No question.
I think the mental mindset of them taking care of home court and saying we're up 2-0 on this team. They've been playing with house money all throughout the playoffs. But now they're saying we're going to legitimize this by beating the King twice at home. That gives us a little leeway for us going on the road. If you go on the road, you're 1-1, you lose those 2 games?
Yeah.
Come on,
Which
that's a
they
whole.
probably would.
And now the mental pressure to come back home and try to win, the pressure now shifts to the young guys who haven't been there. LeBron, I got more confidence in LeBron being down 0-2 than I do in Boston being 1-1.
I was going to say,
Wish
so
we had
it's
asked
more of a
different
must-win.
question. That's what I was going to
for
say.
Boston.
Yeah.
Do y'all feel like there's more pressure on the Celtics than on the Cavaliers tonight?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. Listen, 10 days ago, Boston was in a Game 7 at home with Milwaukee. We were entering the 4th quarter, and it was a coin flip. Let's not pretend these are the Larry Bird Celtics. I'll tell you what I think is most important tonight. Cleveland winning the top 3 in the lottery. I'm dead serious.
I heard you
If
talking
Cleveland's in the top 3 in the lottery, I believe LeBron 75% stays. LeBron loses tonight. He goes home, evens it up. It's a 3-game series. I get LeBron. I'll take it. If LeBron and the Cavs are 12th in the lottery tonight, can't do anything with this roster. You lose to Boston, not coming back to Cleveland. That reshapes the league. LeBron losing tonight doesn't reshape anything. They'll go home and win 2 in Cleveland. If they finish number 1, 2, or 3 in the lottery, Jason, they either get the next Jason Tatum or they can trade it for a star. That remains the biggest story tonight.
I'm going to disagree with you a little bit just because the draft is so much of a crapshoot now because the kids are 19 when they come in. You can get a great player at number 12. You can get a great player anywhere in the top 15. You can if you are as good as Danny Ainge or some of these other guys, you can find a great player in the first 15 picks. So I disagree with you a little bit there. Y'all have made me think of the reverse and how important this game is for Boston.
Look, I'll go this far. If Boston loses tonight, it's over.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, because they're going to
Absolutely.
come back to Boston 3-1 down.
Yep.
And it's over.
You know who's not getting a lot of credit? We're giving a lot of credit, and I have to Brad Stevens. But Ty Lue, his ability to make adjustments defensively, we saw it in the Indiana series, how he switched up, how he was guarding the pick and roll on Oladipo. You know how hard it is to have to be able to coach LeBron James, the up days, the down days, when he feels like he's in the mood, he's not getting credit. Watch the adjustments that's going to take place in tonight's game defensively and offensively for Cleveland. And it's not because of LeBron. It's because of what Ty Lue is.
Ty Lue has been overshadowed by Quinn Snyder and Brad Stevens. Ty Lue outcoached Nate McMillan in that series. You go back to that
big
series, Ty Lue had a great series against the Pacers. I think we're looking so much at all these other coaches because let's be honest, Kerr's famous, D'Antoni's famous.
LeBron coaches the Cavs.
Hold on, but you know what, though? But Phil Jack, if you look at, I did a thing, right? And I don't know where it's at. It's in here somewhere. Ty Lue's first 50 games in playoffs, all right? He's won 37. He's tied with Phil Jackson, 37-13. He's ahead of Pat Riley and ahead of Greg Popovich. All of them had transformational players. All of them walked in and they had somebody there. But, of course, they get overshadowed because they have these superstars that don't get the credit. And Ty Lue right there in 50 games.
Well,
it's right tied
and
with
most,
Phil
if
Jackson.
not all of them, probably had more talent all up and down the roster than Ty Lue.
When Ty Lue got that job, I had a friend who worked for the Clippers, and he said, let me tell you, among coaches, Ty Lue was very respected. I think Ty Lue gets overshadowed by higher profile coaches, I think he's had a really good playoff. Welcome back. Jim Jackson, Chris Broussard are back. Let's return to the Western Conference Finals. Game 1 last night. Houston threw everything they had at Golden State. Got a big game out of James Harden. Got a big game out of Chris Paul. They were at home, got a big lead, and lost by 13 points. Even still, Mike D'Antoni said today, they're not going to change their game plan.
Oh my gosh, ISO, that's all we do. No, it didn't. And that's what we do best. We scored like 60% of the time on it. It's like, no, really? You know, all of a sudden, they don't pass, everybody stand. Really? You watch this for 82 games? That's what we do.
Oh, good luck with that. Are the Western Conference Finals already over?
I'm not ready to go there, but I am losing faith in my prediction of a 7-game series. Particularly, seriously, if they're just going to stand around, and they overdosed on ISO. I mean, that was far more than they did in the regular season. I think they said 45 possessions. And then the possessions that just blow my mind from D'Antoni that wrote a book, Do Everything in 15 Seconds. Yeah. It's like a book about my sex life. But see, now they're getting all their shots. Now they're getting all their shots. At the end of the shot clock, it was blowing my mind.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between overreacting and seeing the truth. If Tom Brady throws 3 picks, it's over. Overreacting. Amazon stock comes down 8%. Company's over. Overreacting. Seeing a tidal wave headed to you and saying, we're doomed.
That's not overreacting.
That's seeing the truth. I watched Golden State last night, and I'm like, yeah, they're better at everything. Even the shooting thing, they're better at that.
And also, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, they can bait you into ISO ball. Because when they switch everything, you go one-on-one. That's kind of how you beat it. It's can you beat your man? When they're switching everything, you can get baited into it. And I think
Golden State or
Golden State baits their opponent into playing ISO ball.
So I think it's so easy with Houston, but here's the difference too. I'm gonna go back to this. It's that offensively, Mike D'Antoni allows his key players to kind of do whatever, and that's a mistake because again, I always go back to accountability. Even with Golden State, the way Steve Kerr is able to speak and talk to his guys about the importance of moving the basketball. It was a play right at the beginning of the fourth quarter. James Harden was on the bench, but the ball moved quick like this, and they got a nice 3-point shot. I'm like, well, why can't they do that 3 out of 5 possessions, then have 2 isolations? Because now you got ball, but if the coach is not going to stress that, James Harden is going to play the way he's going to be allowed to play. And then when you try to correct that, he's going to look at you like, bro, you let me get away with it now, so why you going to change? So they can't change. That's the issue. And for me, selfishly, I'll be honest with you. I just want to see a great series. I want to see it go up and down, but there ain't no way. Houston, to me.
It's over.
Houston was not going to beat. Now, they built their team to be competitive with Golden State. To me, they built this team. They weren't going to beat Golden State in 7 games. It just wasn't going to happen.
I could see the next 3 or say 3 of the next 4 games looking exactly like last night.
Yeah.
Where it's it wasn't a full-on blowout. Houston's close enough to hang and stay close, like you said. Yeah.
Yep.
But they're just better. They're just downright better, and it's as simple as that.
Do y'all buy the notion that he's not going to change, he's not going to adjust anything?
You know, you can be smart in separate ways. Like, for instance, Belichick. They say literally every game he has a different game plan. Okay, D'Antoni's always reminded me of Chip Kelly, the football coach. Mm-hmm. He creates a system, and it catches everybody off guard in Phoenix, in Oregon. But they don't move from the system. So Belichick doesn't have a system. Every week he's got a different game plan. There's different ways to be a genius. Right. Chip Kelly and D'Antoni have this system. To your point, it's what they are.
D'Antoni's
they don't move off it.
Non-confrontational, right? So he's not going to go to Harden or Chris Paul or somebody and say, we need to do this switch. He's just not.
But I do think, though, with the isolation, keep in mind they tried to go at Steph, okay? Yeah. But that had everybody standing around. I think they'll counter off of that a little bit more to try to get guys. And what I mean by that, if they get a switch on Steph, maybe it's a cross pick down below, because we didn't see as many lobs to Capella. No. We didn't see the open jump shot. So I do think Mike is smart enough to understand once we get this switch, instead of standing, let's get some crosses on the baseline. Let's get some movement. Now the defense has to be occupied. Last night, the defense, I'm just sitting there like this. Okay, here you come, James. That's all it was. So look for a little bit more activity, I think, from the ancillary players.
Okay, D'Antoni's not confrontational. There is a person on that roster who is confrontational is Chris Paul. Chris Paul, I mean, he's not just going to go down just doing the same dumb thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
He will. This is a chance to cement his legacy,
Yep.
improve his legacy. He'll call out James Harden, Mike D'Antoni, or whoever. At this point, I just don't think he's just going to take this laying down.
He may need to. He may need to take the lead in that aspect because Chris is the type of player that can get everybody involved. But again, he's standing. Why not use him to be able to come off of a screen, catch it in motion, and then attack? Those are the adjustments that they have to make.
One thing I did notice when Harden was on the bench or when the ball was in Chris's hands, they did have more movement. It wasn't just ISO, everybody standing around, so you might see more of that.
All right, welcome back. We're joined now by Super Bowl champ Mark Schlereth and the founder of the Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's return to the issue of sports gambling and yesterday's Supreme Court decision, which set off a wave of speculation about what legalized betting will mean for professional sports, including an interesting take from Yahoo's Dan Wetzel, who says the financial boon to the NFL will wash away any problems caused by the Colin Kaepernick protest controversy. As Wetzel writes, quote, the league has money to make and so much of it that whatever remains of the protests against the league is likely to fade or be completely meaningless. Sorting out this gambling thing is about all these billionaire owners are going to care about. Cowherd, will gambling wash away the Kaepernick controversy?
Yeah, I don't know, Dan. I think he's talented. I think he whiffs here because I think they're two separate issues. The Colin Kaepernick story, that ship has sailed. None of my friends talk about it. You know who talks about it? The media. None of my friends have asked me in a year about Colin Kaepernick. It's over. Now let's go to the gambling story. I think we're massively overreacting. People that don't gamble on football, like my sister, are not going to start. People like me that bet occasionally will still bet occasionally. Degenerates will still be degenerates. Just like marijuana. If you didn't smoke it, you're not smoking it now in Colorado. And if you did, by the way, 10 years ago, it's not like you ever said, you want to get high? I can't find any pot here in Colorado. I think we're blowing this way out of proportion. I think a handful of betting companies will make money, and the leagues will make a little bit. The leagues make their money on TV revenue.
I thought about this more yesterday. And my initial reaction yesterday, we got the news kind of right before the show. And I do think this gambling thing is going to have an amazing impact on all of sports. And when I say amazing, some will be good, some will be bad. But the impact will be real. Will it make the Kaepernick controversy go away? No. I say no for a different reason, because I think the people interested in the Kaepernick controversy aren't sports fans. The people promoting that, the people that think that Kaepernick is being wrong have virtually no understanding of sports, and so they're the clueless group that really are just using sports to make a different point, and they're going to continue to do that. What this gambling thing, though, I think is going to do, and this is maybe a little bit too inside baseball, but they're going to spend money on sports talk shows, these gambling companies, and that's going to be good for us. And I think it's going to inject some honesty into the conversation, because the gambling companies won't be woke. They won't be trying to advance some political issue. They're going to be trying to make money. And so we'll be freer to say exactly what we think. And so the next time that I say Kaepernick did one of the dumbest things in the history of sports and he burned up his career, no one's going to think it's controversial. They'll just say, oh, that guy gets to say what he wants and what he really believes.
Here's what I think, that billionaires don't become billionaires because they don't pay attention to the details, right? They're ruthless business people, and they become billionaires because they pay attention. And this Kaepernick thing still has a huge impact. Regardless if gambling comes in, and regardless if you're making money or you're not making money, it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, Article 69, Section 2 of the collective bargaining agreement, if the league is found guilty of collusion, the PA can step in and terminate the collective bargaining agreement. Now, if you think that owners who have the sweetheart deal of sweetheart deals when it comes to players and revenue aren't paying attention to the Kaepernick thing, then you're just foolish. Of course they're paying attention to Kaepernick because it affects their bottom line. If all of a sudden this collective bargaining agreement becomes void and you get to go back to the negotiating table and you've got this potential of new revenue coming in from a players association standpoint, you don't think you're going to basically try to hold, and I know they never are able to do it to the owners, But timing is everything in life. And if you get the right time where all of a sudden players are rolling into camp and collusion is essentially, they're guilty of collusion, and you can shut down the season or you can do it in September, you don't think the owners are going to jump and give the Players Association what they want? Of course they're paying attention to this Colin Kaepernick stuff because of the collective bargaining agreement.
Slight disagreement, Mark. I just keep coming back to what Colin said. Like, I know Wetzel well. We've been friends for a while. I just think he whiffed here. Again, even on the big lead, we've seen it. Early in the season when Trump was talking about kneeling and the NFL protests, there were clicks to be had, and we jumped on them. But as the season wore on, week 8, week 12, that stuff was gone. There was no talk of kneeling during the playoffs. I mean, we're forgetting. Kaepernick last played in December 2016. It's been 17 months. I do believe the controversy for Kaepernick is over. I know there's some Eric Reid chatter still out there, but he's not a household name. He didn't go to a Super Bowl. I just feel like the gambling stuff is great. I think
stories generally have arcs. You know, I mean, there was the Kaepernick kneel. Everybody talked about. Boy, it feels like it's there. It really. I keep telling you. I won't get sidetracked. Lamar Jackson Flacco, that's the new Tebow. That's going to be the story of the quarterback who doesn't play much.
I'll say that I do think people still talk about it. I had a big barbecue back in Indianapolis for a bunch of my friends and family just this past weekend. By the end of the night, it's about 10 guys I went to college with. And we talked about Kaepernick. All black dudes, Kappas, Omega Psi Phi fraternity guys. Only one of them was a Kaepernick supporter. The rest of them thought he did something stupid.
All right, to the Patriots, who are 5 weeks into their voluntary workouts, keyword voluntary, Tom Brady, nowhere to be found. First time this decade he hasn't participated in the team's offseason program, playing Qatar with his wife. The Patriots used to pride themselves on having no distractions. Now they can't avoid them. Whitlock, you must love this story. You must have planted this story in the show. Is Brady's absence damaging the Patriots' future?
Absolutely.
I knew that was your answer.
Absolutely. He's damaging the culture of the Patriots way. And I'm not blaming him because it's a domino effect. Bill Belichick, the Malcolm Butler domino fell, and now the Tom Brady domino is falling. There is no Patriot culture without Tom Brady. Bill Belichick can run his mouth and stand up there in front of those guys. If he doesn't have the greatest player of all time co-signing for him, it's all meaningless. And right now, he doesn't have the greatest player of all time co-signing for him. That damages their culture.
When the season starts, they're 4-0, and the Jets are 0-4, and the Dolphins are 1-3. Don't you think the culture will be back steady, rolling down the highway?
What about when they're 4-4 or 4-3 or 4-2? When the loss happens, when Bill does something questionable again, and he doesn't have his friendly co-signer, Tom Brady, there backing him up. That has been at the heart of the Patriot system, the next man up, team over everything, do your job. As much as Belichick gets the credit for it, he can't do it without Brady.
I agree. And here's the deal. It doesn't matter until it matters. When they're 4-0, and things are rolling along smoothly, they'll be fine. And that's the way the league works. But all of a sudden, some controversy happens. Because the one thing you have, if you're right, if the cosigner of all cosigners isn't on board, you know what that makes the rest of the guys in that locker room look at? They look at Tom Brady and go, well, he's not on board? Do I need to be on board? Can I question the authority? And that's how locker rooms work. And so, again, if they're cruising through the season, probably he's not going to make a hill of beans. Probably won't, but lose a couple in a row. And have those losses come back to Belichick and question a decision he made, like the Butler decision. Because it's the first time I have ever seen in the history of the New England Patriots that I've been covering them as an analyst, and I retired, and I've been covering this league for 18 years now. It's the first time that I've ever seen Bill Belichick, as the head coach, his authority, be circumvented.
But it's the two best players, Mark. Come on. We're talking about Tom Brady, who's been there for 2 decades falling in line. He wins the first MVP over the age of 40 in the league, right? Mm-hmm. And now he doesn't want to show up for OTAs. I just don't think it's the end of the world. Gronk is kind of falling in line. Remember, during the season, the trainer situation happened. Belichick banned him from the flights and the sideline. There was pushback. Supposedly there was a lot of arguments. They still rolled all the way to the Super Bowl. Like, I just don't see how it's making that much of an impact. Damaged is so strong, Whitlock. Why can't you just say maybe dented? I don't see anybody on the special teams or the third wide receiver maybe following these guys. Hey, Brady's got 5 Super Bowl rings, okay? He can do that kind of thing.
No, but listen, there's nothing wrong with the word damage. Let's say Brady broke his pinky finger but could still play. He's been damaged. And then he may start compensating because of his pinky and doing other things, and there's just a ripple effect. And I'm just telling you, Tom Brady not being on board, first time ever during voluntary workouts, in his first time ever, it's significant. It's like cancer. There's not a big-ass tumor at the beginning of cancer. There's first a little tumor that no one notices. Oh, that's nothing. That's nothing. And then you go and find, oh, my God, it's the size of a tennis ball now. And that, again, there's a little cancer. And Bill Belichick has the power to remove the cancer by addressing the Butler situation and defending it, explaining it, apologizing for it, whatever, to his team. And then I think Brady goes back to normal.
I'm not denying your point, and I've acknowledged that I was wrong. I just didn't think the Malcolm Butler situation was going to be this. The question becomes damage. Is it different? Is it unique? It is a 41-year-old quarterback who I'd rather not be at OTAs or the preseason.
Oh, you think Belichick agrees with you?
No, but I don't
he'd rather
necessarily
them be
think
there.
it's damaged. I do think it's different. It is being circumvented. Tom's making a stand. He's been more deft at social media posts. I just don't know if it's damage. I still think Belichick...
You can repair a damaged car.
Let me give you a scenario real quick. So last year, the no-fly zone in Denver, the Denver secondary, they end up making a decision to get rid of T.J. Ward, ship him out, right?
The safety.
The safety.
Yeah,
right.
Everybody's a little bit upset. I say on my own radio show in Denver, I think it's a big mistake. I think this is one of those things that, again, doesn't matter until it matters. The Broncos even called me up. They're upset with what I said. And I said, I didn't say anything untrue. This is just how I feel about this situation, okay? So, anyhow, we move on. Guess what? They start off the season 2-0. Then they start off 3-1, and everything is hunky-dory. Then they start to fall apart. And Chris Harris Jr. talks about it. And then Aqib Talib talks about it. And then all of a sudden, Aqib Talib becomes a problem. They have to ship him out, right? And all of a sudden, that whole secondary breaks down. And this vaunted Denver defense, all of a sudden like that, without any help from the offense, understood, but all of a sudden they fall apart, right? And they had to make significant changes this offseason. That's how quickly these things that don't matter tend to start to matter.
Little becomes big.
Malcolm
Right.
Butler, huh? You're really all in on this. I have
the
respect.
Super Bowl.
I have respect.
Listen, you know what's better than 5 Super Bowl wins?
6.
6.
Yes.
You know what? And you're upset that you didn't get number 6, and you feel like your organization let you down when they've asked you to do nothing but sacrifice for the good of the team, do nothing but sacrifice for us and the good of this team, and all of a sudden you said, I'm going to let my ego get away, and I'm not going to do what's best for this team. I'm going to take the guy that was our number 1 corner, played 98% of the reps, maybe he was sick, maybe didn't show up, but our best chance to win, I'm going to say, you know what? That's not how I do business.
Could you argue it's better to just let it go? It's gone. We're 4 months past the Super Bowl. Let's not bring it up because then it's a whole nother round of stories.
Okay, but
TV shows
here's the
and
deal.
radio-
You don't have to bring it up. You don't have to bring it up to us, but you damn well better bring it up to your team. This is what you like. You need to sit down in a meeting and say, hey, boys, guess what? Papa Bear screwed up, and I apologize.
And that's how you move on. That's how you move on.
Jim Jackson, Chris Broussard here. Let's go to the NBA, where Kevin Durant was electric last night, dropped 37, led the Warriors to a Game 1 W over the Rockets. There was a lot of talk about Golden State's relative slump when Steph Curry was hurt this year. But Durant carried the team with Steph injured to start the playoffs. All right, Whitlock, is KD to you more valuable than Steph?
I think at this point I have to say yes. I think that, look, man, basketball is a game that favors size and height. One guy's 7 foot, one guy's 6'3". End of story.
I think it's the opposite. Basketball is now a game of pace and spacing. And when one of the great things about analytics, and I know we talk too much analytics, but there are moments when they create clarity. When Steph played and Steph didn't, the Warriors were 10 points less of a team, point differential. When KD played and KD didn't, they were actually 2 points better. So the difference between those two is 12 points. The basketball today used to be about size.
How big is that sample size?
Well, I'm just telling you.
How big is the
Last
sample
year's
size?
regular season. This year's regular season. That's what
I mean, how many different games? How many games did KD
well,
miss?
Steph was out 30 games.
The league isn't about size. It's about spacing and pace. And when Curry plays and Durant doesn't, it's almost like the Patriots without Gronk. They figured out how to work those inside slot receivers. When Steph's gone, they're not very fast. They're just a good basketball team without the speed.
I agree with Colin, especially during the regular season. But I'll say this. You could make an argument for any individual in their big four as being irreplaceable. If they didn't have Draymond Green to do all the dirty work and defend, they wouldn't be the same team. If they didn't have Klay Thompson to defend the best guard and let Steph end up, being hidden on somebody. So I do think in the playoffs, however, I tend to say Steph is the most valuable, like you. But in the playoffs, where it comes to they know what you're doing, they know exactly what you're doing, and you just need somebody to break you down.
Yeah.
Steph obviously can break you down to get his own shot, but Durant's 7 feet.
Yeah, in the
point.
games that matter most, Kevin Durant's better. Let me just clean that up.
No, you're right. You're right. And I thought about that too because with Steph, even though he was off last night, 18 points, he had 6 rebounds, he had 8 assists. So he still had an impact on the game. And him being on the court forced the teams to still defensively space. And I didn't think about what you said though. In the playoffs, it's a lot easier defensively for me to take Steph out of the game. Cleveland has done it before. Even though he's averaged about 22, 23 points in the finals against Cleveland, his effectiveness and his efficiency has gone down. With Kevin Durant, the only way he's going to be effective if he's just missing shots.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really nothing you can do to take him out of the game. So it's that weird dynamic. You need to have Steph on the court because he pushes the ball at a different pace, which opens it up for his teammates to get shots. You can see the difference when he's not there. But in a half-court scenario, when you need to go get buckets, ain't nothing you can do with Kevin
By the
Durant.
way, when Kevin Durant went to Golden State, why were people mad? Because they'd already won 73 games and a title without him. This team accomplished a ton without him. Oklahoma City, we kept saying, they got too much talent. They're not really winning enough. He was Mr. Unreliable. Listen, the cake was made. Durant's the icing. These guys were 73 wins without him.
I think 2 years ago you were right. When he got there, he was the icing. Mm-hmm. Now he's wormed his way into the foundation, the flower of the cake. And again, he's 7 feet. Steph is 6'3". In the history of basketball, it favors the bigger you are, the game favors you. And Dirk Nowitzki is about the only guy I can think of, and Kevin Durant is better than Dirk Nowitzki. Yeah. And then when you assume you got to play the other half of the court, the difference between KD and Steph at the other end of the court is night and day.
KD is definitely the better player, but I do tend to think Steph is just the most valuable.
Except in the games that matter the most.
Well,
I
mean, this year is odd because Steph is really not fully back yet. I mean, he obviously came out like a gunslinger in his first playoff game, but he's even said his lateral movement is not the same yet with the knees.
We got the history in the playoffs, Chris, that you rightly referenced earlier. Are you running away from that?
No. I'm just saying. I'm saying. Steph almost averaged a triple-double in the finals last year. It wasn't like he didn't play well.
And he was almost the MVP too, wasn't he? But Kevin Durant was.
Yeah. No, it's one of those dynamics. Yeah. I think you need both, but both do so many things differently. But again, the pace in which Steph plays is good, but Kevin Durant puts you in so many precarious situations. Yeah. But a lot of it, too, is because of the spacing, because of what Golden State, that Steph creates, that allows you to now have space to work. But
let me ask Colin a question. Okay. I got the perfect question for Colin Cowherd. Right? Take Steph Curry, put him with Russell Westbrook. What happens? Do they ever sniff an NBA Finals? Do they even sniff the playoffs?
Ooh,
but you take Kevin Durant and put him with Westbrook, they made the NBA Finals.
Ooh.
But Steph's,
Colin?
Yeah, one, and Harden was coming off the bench. That team was ridiculous.
I do have a retort as well. Remember, KD was there before Russ. So it was kind of KD's team, and then Russ joined in. If Steph was there first, and had already established it's my team, and Russ just had to fit in.
You know what the MVP of this team is? Self-esteem. Because you have two superstars, and they're good if everybody else scores. Is Harden really good if Chris Paul leads the way? Is LeBron really good if Kevin Love leads the way?
Kyrie Irving leads the way.
No. I mean, what's really remarkable about this team is the self-esteem, is that you have two superstars and 4 stars. Last night, Draymond to me and Clay, not Durant's 37. I thought Draymond was huge, had the best plus-minus. Klay Thompson must have had 7 open threes.
Colin is a magician. Did you
He
see
got
that
off that-
disappearing?
he got off that real.
He got off it just like that. Change the subject. Kevin Durant is more valuable than Steph Curry, Colin. And Chris knows it too in the most important game. You know it as well. But that was a nice little trick.
I'm not sure.
All right, welcome back. Time for last call. Let's move to Draymond Green, who didn't wait long before getting a tech last night, shoving James Harden just a minute into the game. Green said afterward he was a bit overzealous. Cowherd, should the Warriors be concerned about Draymond?
No, I think he was amped up. I thought he was crucial last night. He had 9 assists, which led both teams. I thought he was great. I thought he was Dennis Rodman on a great night.
Should they be concerned? He should, like 3 minutes later, he should have been tossed out of the game for arguing with officials. He tackled P.J. Tucker and then threw a tantrum. Hell yeah, they should be concerned about Draymond Green. To get a tech this early into the Western Conference Finals is stupid.
He set the tone. Sometimes to set the tone, you have to make people uncomfortable.
And if the refs had been doing their jobs, he would have been setting that tone from the locker room after the first quarter.
Well, first of all, Draymond's been around long enough. He knows that in the Western Conference, Eastern Conference Finals, and Finals, refs let more go. Refs step back at this time of the year. They step back. Thankfully, cooler heads prevailed with the referees.
All right, to baseball, where Robinson Cano has been suspended for 80 games for violating MLB's joint drug prevention and treatment program after testing positive for a diuretic. Cowherd, what's your reaction?
Well, Mariners spent a fortune on him. He had a good first year there, but, this is a problem. 80 games, season's over.
I think this goes to be careful what you wish for. You get all this money, and boy, it sounds great. $240 million. I mean, A-Rod got $250 million. And then all of a sudden he had drug test problems. And there's a lot of pressure
that
goes along with those huge contracts.
When you get these 10-year deals, you better perform. We know in the NBA a guy's going to average 28 a game. And in football, Tom Brady's going to complete throws. But in baseball, you get more roller coasters. You're right about this. There is a pressure to deliver. And baseball as a batter, who hits 320 every year?
Again, great expectations. They give you all that money. That's why I'm very careful about the women that I date. You know, I've had a lot of supermodels come after me since I've lived out here in L.A., but I'm very careful because I don't want to go to Viagra. I don't want to have to go that route.
Why do we always end every show this way?